day. I don't do nothing for gazy. I blow the bag today. I walk in the mall and go crazy. I blow a bag today. I bought a whip on the baby. I blow a bag today. I put a whip on the baby. I blow a bag today.
All right, welcome back to Going Corn. First episode of 2018. Wow, we made it all the way to the next year. This is a podcast all about the Leroy Wiffle Association, joined, as always, by the co-host, the host with the most, Caleb Youngman. What's
That's
up,
trendy.
Caleb?
Is that the new 2018 thing?
I guess so,
The
right?
host with the most?
I got to do something better than we're back.
We're back.
And we're back.
New year,
That's like
new
my
Greg,
catchphraise.
Huh?
You know?
New year, new Greg.
New year, new Greg.
I
yeah.
like it a lot.
So,
Well, it's going to be a good show. We had a lot. A lot happened in the last 8 hours.
I know.
Much less alone.
Last 8 hours, and the draft was crazy.
Right.
It's been a heck of a day.
So this is going to be a viewer's dream. 2018, we're not going to disappoint to get started. So you want to jump right in?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Well, soon-ish. Well, you'll be hearing this after the announcement is made, but we have announced the Shaw-Friedman Wiffle Invitational presented by Leroy Wiffle Association. So it's going to be June 1st. We're going to have a social and gather together some of the people. Shaw-Friedman's going to hopefully be there. We can talk a little bit about his sponsorship to the league and how much he's helped out. And June 2nd, we'll have an all-day tournament. It's going to be, if you want to talk about the details a little bit more.
Yeah. So
this is kind of your thing.
Yeah, basically, I was talking with Alex over the off season, and we were talking about Maple City. Alex and I talk a ton about wiffle ball, not surprisingly. But we were talking about sponsorships and how we were going to grow the sponsorship with Friedman and Associates. And Shaw really liked what we did last year with Leroy, and really liked the relationship we built with Orable. And so it was a no-brainer that our sponsorship would increase, and we were thinking about ways that we would be able to grow that relationship with Friedman and Associates, and a tournament was really the no-brainer there. Like Greg said, it's going to be a 2-day thing. June 2nd, that's a Saturday. That's going to be the tournament. I'll get into those details a little bit more, but June 1st is the social. And I don't want this part of the weekend to get minimized. We're going to have an interesting format for the actual tournament itself. So it's going to be 12 teams. We're going to have 12 teams of 4. Now, 24 of the 48 players are going to be from Leroy. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the qualify of those players. So we're going to take the qualify of the top 24 players that are available, and we're going to pair them one. So the best player salary out of those players, and then the lowest player salary of the qualified 24. So we're going to pair those up, and that's going to be your quote-unquote captains for the 12 teams. And then the other part of it will be people outside of Leroy. So Orable, Griffle Ball, anybody interested in our league, you and a partner will sign up. And it's first come, first serve. And the 2 selected players from Leroy out of the 24 are going to draft those other 2. So Friday night, we'll have the draft, and the captains will randomly select draft order, and the captains will then have a chance to select that their other pair.
So they get to select. I think we had talked about some different off-air. Now it's going to be they get to pick who they want?
Correct.
Oh,
yes.
awesome.
So the draft order is going to be randomized, and then it's the luck of the pick. So the 24 people, so the 12 pairs of the Leroy guys will have the opportunity to see the other 12 pairs of guys that have signed up, and then have the opportunity to choose. So there's going to be a lot more details. We're in the beginning stages of this, but
and I'm sure we'll talk about. There's some people that are on both right now, like Alex Friedman, Shane Anderson, and Wes have all played a lot of games over in Leroy. So we'll iron out those details of when, who they're going to play for, what all that's going to work out. But very exciting stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a win-win for Leroy and then the state of Indiana for wiffle ball. I mean, we're going to finally get an opportunity, and I mean, we've showcased our league in different places, but we're finally going to get the opportunity to showcase our league to other people. We're going to get an ability to have a fun night with our guys on Friday and really be able to build a tournament that we feel is going to rival some of the best in the country. So
yeah, and we don't have a cost yet either. Like I said, those will be announced.
Right.
Well, it'll probably, hopefully, have been announced by the time you're hearing this. This show won't go out on the day it's being recorded, but hopefully we'll have a lot of those details ironed out and ready to go. Anything else you want to say?
No, let's move on.
Awesome. So we had the draft, the big event. We had 50 people that had, well,
a little more, but yeah,
I think 50 plus paid,
right?
And then we had about 46, 48, right?
Right,
Show up.
one of those two, yeah.
So
Increase from last year.
Yeah. So it was a very nice turnout. Had a little issues with getting the lane started at first and kind of that whole logistical thing. But otherwise, I thought it went pretty well. What were your impressions of just the bowling event?
Yeah, I thought it went really well too. It was good to see everybody back again. We as a league take steps in the right direction. What did we have, 36 people last year? So to have 48,
we're trending up.
We're moving in the right direction. So that was good. And it transitioned nicely. I thought it was a pretty clean transition into the draft. We made some changes. We upped our draft this year. We had it in the party room at the bowling alley. And
that worked out a lot better.
Oh, it was
because
awesome.
It didn't stop people from bowling, and it was kind of a more chance to showcase some more of the players. Even though we didn't have a whole ton of players show up, we had some people just show up for the draft, so that was really cool. So
yeah, absolutely. So moving into the actual draft itself, we're going to break it down into two segments. We're going to bring up the teams and how they were drafted, and then we're going to give our thoughts on the team, and we're going to give an overall grade to how the owner drafted and where their team stands now. We're going to take a quick break, then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about underrated and overrated picks.
Yeah, some questions, and talk about, some of those
typical
things you hear about. So, I mean, let's start off. Let's go down the list of picks. So the Truckers had the number 1 pick.
Yep.
And they took Jack. They kind of, Tim always loves to stir things up. Thought he would, say he was going to draft somebody else or put in the idea that he's going to surprise everyone, even though I think everyone, the moment he got the first pick, like we went outside, me, him, and Jordan, and I was like, oh, you taking Jack, right? And he's just like, oh, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know, right?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I pretty much knew that was going to happen. But and then the third round, he had the last pick of the second round then. And then he took Neil in the second round, Neil Kruzwick, and then Grant Reinhout with the last pick. No longer an owner. Back on the Truckers, though.
Yep.
Thoughts on the Truckers?
Yeah, I knew I had a pretty strong inclination Tim was going to take Jack.
Yeah,
duh. But he went an interesting direction with Neil and Grant. Tim's downfall, Tim's always had a team that could hit decently well, but his downfall has always been pitching. So statistically, they're the worst pitching team in the league right now. And with this league dominating pitching, I don't really know what he's going to try and do. There's going to be a lot of free agents that come out, so I know Tim at first is going to try and build his salary, getting guys to show up. So we'll see how that strategy works out for him. But, Tim's draft grade, is with the first overall pick, you're kind of put in a bind with who you can take in that second and third round. So I think he did a decent job of strategizing and giving himself a good option for a Kermit player. So I'd give him B-, I'd say.
You're reading my mind, man.
Yeah.
He didn't talk about this. I was about to say I would go. Jack's obviously a great player. He was my teammate last year. He does a lot of good things. If not for your season, if you had not played last year, he would have had pretty much every record, I think, batting wise.
Absolutely.
So he had a great season.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And the thing that's going to hurt them is their pitching.
Yeah.
Jack's their best pitcher, which is he's good, but he's not
an ace. No.
Yeah, he's not when you think you, Brett, John, Eric,
Jeremiah,
so, some of those top people. So
Right.
that'd be the only downfall of them. But they're going to have great attendance, I think. That's one thing that's going to be a big positive for them. So.
Yep, moving right into the second team. Robbie Zanstra, Sultans of Soy, had the second pick. Robbie, in a surprising move, took Lucas Miedema with the second pick. He took John Enningenberg as a steal in the third round, and then he had Micah Hescott to round out his 4. What are your thoughts on the Sultans? I wanted to turn this one over to you, Greg.
Yeah, you suck. Yeah, I think most people know, if you're at the draft or know by now, I really wanted Lucas.
Right.
I really thought there's no way he was going to go to, but he did, and that's okay. I like my team. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, I mean, he did really good, I think. It's just a lot of big question marks. Him and Lucas are going to do really well. But then what about John Enningenberg? I mean, no one's heard of this guy.
Right.
No one's heard from this guy in forever. So
Right.
It's how much stock do you put into him on what he's going to do? And then Micah Hescott is
right.
He didn't do so great last year. We'll see if he can improve. But
I think, in my opinion, Robbie is in a position where the top 4 is his to lose with the roster that he has. He has
Really?
Lucas, I do think so. From this perspective, Lucas is going to be really, really good. Him and Lucas will be a good one too. I think John was a pretty safe risk. If John doesn't pan out, he's got $37 to go sign a good free agent. And Micah at 1382, we didn't see a ton of him. And one thing that we can say year to year has been true in Leroy: you never know what can happen over time. People can get much better and people can get much worse. So I'm not saying Mike is going to come out and be an above average player, but he could improve. I mean, look at Austin Gibson, someone that.
True.
So he goes from being the joke of last year's draft to a first-round draft pick. So, I mean, anybody can get better in this league. So
that's true. Yeah, I know. Overall grade, I would say, for me, just with the I'd say C+, just because the bottom 2 is a big question mark. You talked about him being able to sign a free agent. That's true, because he'll have $38 to do that if he drops John. But he can't always rely on that, and he would be at the bottom of the waiver order to start. So I don't know if he's going to be able to, if he's going to have to pick up people, and if somebody else gets picked up, or let's say the Dusters need somebody, or I want somebody, there's people on the team that could be dropped. I don't know. So
I'm going to give him an A-. I'm going to disagree. I think he had a really good draft. I think, too, something people are forgetting, too, as owners, is that if you have to take a free agent at all, so depending on how many free agents show, if 8 free agents register, even if you have a team of 3, you're still going to have to pick up a free agent if he's available. So Robbie being at that 2 slot and with the draft order being inverted, I mean, he has a pretty good chance of being in the top 4 to pick. So I think Robbie had a really good draft. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are definite question marks. Enningenberg is by no means a lockdown $37 salary player. But I think Robbie has enough wiggle room to be in the top 4 if he plays his cards right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, next we're going to talk about Caleb's team. I didn't plan this to start, but this will work out great because the next 2 teams will be mine and his. So, Liners took in the shocking pick of the first round, James
The
Hayward.
one no one knew was coming.
I know. It was great to see him there. I love that he was just participating and got some people. I really think he enjoys the league, and I don't think, he doesn't know a whole lot of people. Not a lot of people go up and talk to him. I think. I feel like that's because everyone's like, oh, who's this James Hayworth guy? He's not that good. He's pretty good. If you watch him, you talk to him, he's committed. He wants to play. So
absolutely.
You couldn't do a whole lot. It's not like you could take somebody first round talent, but and then Justin Deckinga, and then a Sam Gramala throwaway pick.
Yep. Yeah.
Not playing. She left the group chat already.
Very quickly. Very quickly, I might add. Well, yeah, you talk about what you see first, and then I will give an explanation for what I did.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think obviously Caleb is Caleb. I don't, especially with the season you had last year, Wiffle Player of the Year for NWLA. I mean, not much, a whole lot you can say about that. It's just a matter of, can you get the guys around you to play well? And Hayworth's good fielder. I think he'll be a good pitcher. I think he can be adequate. And Deckinga showed up for 1 week, so I mean,
right.
Who knows? The same thing you say, but that's what you kind of had to bank on this year, I think, because you didn't have a whole lot of options.
Right. And that was how I drafted most definitely. The biggest part, I mean, there's, as an owner, how I see it, there's 2 ways to win. You have to get the most value you can in the draft for the lowest price, and then you also have to be able to be ready to capitalize on a good free agent if you see one. And I feel like I really, really like my team because I feel like I'm in a position to do both those things. I mean, you got a guy like James Hayworth, and I wrote all this in a blog post that I wrote recently, but I think James could be a sub 250 ERA guy and could get on base a ton with the right amount of work. And Deckinga, I mean, you never know. I haven't seen him play a ton, so I don't know exactly what he's going to be like. But
dude's got arms, though.
He's got arms. He's moving. I mean, we'll see what happens. He has the right mindset to want to get better. So, and the one thing, I have the most cap space out of any owner left over. So barely, yeah. So I have $24, which to get a Kermit player, which when I sign that player, that's going to be my highest salaried player. So, I mean, I'm really happy with where I'm at. Yeah. Am I saying I'm going to be a front runner? No, but by the end of the year, if all the right pieces fall into place, I could be a competitor come playoff time, and that's all I want to be. So,
well, I'm glad you're optimistic about your outlook.
I am. I'm very optimistic. So, we'll talk about someone else's optimism with the Noble Narwhals.
Let me give you a grade.
You got to give me a grade. Okay.
Yeah. You can give. I won't give a grade for myself, but you can. I'd say C, just because of who you have on your team.
Right.
We talk about potential, but I mean, looking at what it is,
right.
That team doesn't. It kind of looks like a middle of the pack, even with all the good you do.
Right.
There's only so many times you can hit 6 home runs in a game, and you can only pitch once or twice a game.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's absolutely fair. There's going to be skepticism, and rightly so. So it's going to be a challenging year for me, no doubt, but I'm excited to take it on. So
good.
Moving on to the number 4 pick, the Noble Narwhals.
Yeah, baby. Be noble.
The Narwhals.
Narwhal Nation.
He said be noble. Greg took Jeremiah Wilcher with his first-round pick.
Sure did.
Kyle Jansma with a controversial second-round pick, and then ended up with Robert Warren via trade.
Nope.
No,
I drafted him.
You drafted Warren. Who?
Elijah.
Okay,
his friend.
We'll get into that trade a little bit further on. So off the bat, I look at this team, and if you go by last year, you're looking pretty dang good. You're looking really good. I mean, you got Kyle, you got Jeremiah, 2 of the top players in the league, but you took a risk. I'm not gonna lie with Kyle.
My team's a very risky.
Yes,
I think that's what I like. I'm going to see, this is my first year as an owner, I just want to see how the risky route goes, and then if it explodes in my face, then maybe I'll try. But I'm confident in, I think, being able to at least have some of those, like maybe Kyle for the playoffs. That's kind of what I'm...
Right, absolutely. And I mean, you were able to see, 2 ends of the spectrum with the risk last year, the liners. I mean, I was a completely risk-oriented team, and it paid off. And then Tim took risk with Heisman, Shane. It didn't pay off. So 50-50. I mean, if Kyle shows a decent amount.
Well, and then Kyle last year did that with Jack. Like, no one thought Jack was showing up.
Right.
And so he went at the very last pick of the second round.
Right.
And that team was decent, I thought.
Absolutely.
It's my team. But
absolutely. So, I mean, I think you guys are in a really, really good position to be successful if Kyle shows up. But I mean, with $10.15 left of cap space, you can either sign a $23 Kermit player or you can sign pretty much anyone you want if Kyle doesn't work. So you have a lot of flexibility to work your roster.
I've got the salary.
Yep, absolutely.
Sure,
but yeah, I mean, the big question mark for you is just going to be finding consistency in that second half, finding that roster and then being able to stick with it. So
yeah, and that's the thing. I'm excited about, Jeremiah. Obviously, he's a great talent. But then it just turned out a risk. I didn't know he's working with Sitter.
Right.
So, but hopefully he's committed, though. He says he'll be there every week as long as, job doesn't get in the way, which I'm hoping that maybe I'll bribe his boss on Wednesdays. Be like,
bribe his boss.
just to let Jeremiah go, not Sitter, but just Jeremiah.
Yeah,
But
right.
And then Robert Warren, man, I'm telling you, honestly, I didn't know a whole lot. Like, I didn't have a whole lot of, picks left there. Like, everyone kind of taking all the cheap players, so I didn't have much options. I needed people that were going to be there, and I've already seen some positive things out of him. He's already talked to me, reached out, so I appreciate that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this team goes, and hopefully some of the risks pay off for me. So.
Absolutely.
Well, are you going to give it a grade or no?
Oh, my grade.
Come on, man. Slipping tonight.
Grade.
Be honest. It's okay.
I am. I'm thinking through it. If Kyle shows up the 6 weeks that he should and you get some playoff out of him, I think you are at a B. I do. I think that's a good team. You'll make the playoffs. You could be competitive. I think you could go one of two directions. Move into the A- A range with a good free agent, move with a Kermit player, drop lower if Kyle doesn't show up as much as he should.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So the fifth spot was, who was fifth again?
The Clams.
Oh, Clams. That's right.
Yep.
Took Austin Gibson in the first round at 5 and got Andrew Sitter in the late second round, and then got Ashby. It was crazy how that second round worked out with a lot of players because Shane Anderson went in the second round, Sitter, and then Kyle. I mean, obviously, but and there was 4 teams there that were going to take, and of course, every person I kept thinking about just kept getting taken.
Right.
That was the theme. I shouldn't have thought of any player.
I
shouldn't have thought of anyone.
You thought it into existence.
Because that's what always happens, especially during fantasy drafts. That always happens to me. I think of somebody, it's oh, that sounds like a good player. I'll take them.
Right.
But I think a lot of people were smart to.
Absolutely.
Austin took Shane. Well, we'll get to that. But,
right.
I mean.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I mean, this team's good. I don't know how he got this good of a team. This sucks for me and everyone else because I think I got to play him the first week at least. But I think at least who's it won't be there?
Austin,
and maybe even Ashby, though.
Right.
Because if she's at college.
Right.
Both of them at college.
Right. True. Absolutely. Right. I mean, this is the front runner in my opinion if all things stay true. There's no way Sitter plays as bad as he did last year.
No.
And Austin Gibson, I'm telling you.
And on a team that's a little bit better than the Truckers.
Right. Austin Gibson is legitimately, when he puts his mind to it, could be a top 10, if not. If he plays out of his mind, top 5 player.
Well,
so.
and you saw he's drafted 5th, and a lot of people were thinking, I was thinking about him at that spot at 4. And
Yep.
A lot of people were thinking about him. So
absolutely. So Matt had a great draft. I mean, he didn't really make a pick that was oh yeah, good pick. I mean, Austin, I feel is a no-brainer at that 5 spot with the players that were taken, and then Sitter falling in your lap like that. Ashby's a drop. He still has $18 to go sign somebody.
Show up, though.
Yeah, he does.
He needs her to show up.
He does at first. So, Matt's grade for me is going to be an A. You can't really give him anything but that when he gets Sitter and Austin Gibson. The only question mark is Sitter's pitching, but I mean, even when Sitter's off, he's still above average. So the Clams are the front runner in my opinion. If Matt plays his cards right and just doesn't do anything stupid, I think he's going to be looking really well for the whole season.
I'd agree with the A grade. I mean, that's probably one of my only A's. I haven't really thought about the rest of them, but I mean, that just stands out to me more than anyone else. And like I said, he got very lucky and just very fortunate of how things went in the draft and how Sitter dropped to him at that point and that salary. Like,
Right.
honestly, because what was Sitter last year, like $48 or something?
Yeah,
Like,
he was high. He was high.
He was the second overall pick.
He was high.
They
Right.
win the second round. We
Right.
talked about that in our preview show, but
Right.
like, man, that was something else. But
Absolutely.
so 6th pick, sliders.
Sliders.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the number 6 pick went to Jordan Moselle on the backdoor sliders. And this one makes no sense to me.
This is a confusing draft for him, but
So he starts off with his number 1 pick being John Gibson at the 6th spot. And I'm very surprised John dropped that far. I mean, I know John's a personality. I know that, he's tough to control at times, but John is a top 5 player. And, I mean, Austin has potential, but,
he kind of was top 5 if you take your thing out because you couldn't have drafted somebody.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
I get what you're saying.
Right. The John drop down to 6 is interesting for me, but I mean, Jordan Moselle has a great first pick in John Gibson, and then his 3rd round pick in Quinn, or his 2nd round pick in Quinn. There were other people on the board, right? When Quinn was there. I mean,
not a whole lot.
No.
With his salary, because I mean, he could have taken like Sitter there or something like that, but I think Sitter left a bad taste in the mouth because it was like he couldn't show up and he didn't perform as well as he could have. And
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then rounding it out with Brad Kamstra. I mean, John's going to be good for them. Jordan will be good for them. But between Brad and Quinn at the bottom of that order, that's going to be Dinger Central. I mean, that's going to be, tough to hand. I mean, tough to. They're going to give up runs in the bottom half of that rotation. So
Quinn, I think Quinn could be the one that kind of surprises, though. I think he could get better.
Yeah,
he had times and flashes last year where he was good
with the liners.
Okay, but then times where he was just bad too, though. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
when he had to play you all the time, it's not easy.
No,
that was like me having to face the Corn Bombers 2 years ago when they had a pitching lineup that I was just like, oh, strikeout. Oh, don't even get on base. No.
Yeah.
I played them so many times.
Yeah. So sliders for me, grade C+. John was a great pickup, but Quinn and Brad, it's going to be a lot of runs at the bottom half of that lineup.
B for me.
Okay.
I mean, just getting John there. That's the thing. I have a lot of risk in my thing, but was I willing to risk that player's never going to show up, especially if we lose a couple games? I like John. I really do, but I just don't know if, he would come show for me. That's all. I mean, and maybe if I get, who knows, next year, maybe I'll draft him if we're good enough friends, but or I know him better, So that would be the sliders. 7 was the Corn Bombers. Somehow won again. Ridiculous. Oh, and look at this. A theme yet again from Brett. He always takes the same people.
Yeah.
It's not his brother this time.
No.
He took Colin with the first pick, which I mean, besides James Hayworth, that was like the other one. I was like, okay, well, I'm just pencil that in now. That's for sure.
Yep.
And then Jake Van Vuren, which is great pickup, I think. He has ups and downs, but I think he could still be a great pitcher. And I think that's what Brett needs him to be. And then Aaron Barnes, I don't think he's going to show up this year. I think he's got a job. So I think that's kind of a dump. He would have $24 if he dropped Aaron. So initial thoughts.
Brett's in another good position. I mean, Jake's their most inconsistent pitcher, but when Jake's on, he can be a strikeout machine. He has a nice pitch. So
yeah, he decided to do that when he was playing on the Otters.
Oh, did he?
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Do I think Brett has as good of a squad he's had the past 2 years? Not by any stretch of the imagination, but if he picks up a decent Kermit player, he could be in the hunt again. So Brett always finds a way to draft a competitive team, and I think Colin's only going to become a better pitcher with time. So Brett has a really good team again. What do you think?
Same thing. Colin, I don't know. He said he wasn't going to come to all the weeks. I don't know if he's got a job or something. So it's just a question mark, but I mean, I'm sure Brett will find a way to. He got Colin to pitch really well in the playoffs, and I'm sure, Jake's done well for him before, but I think he could drop him if he needs to, or trade him, or do something like that. He's not afraid to make moves.
Yep. As
we saw, he made probably one of the most active owners last year with transactions.
Absolutely.
They'll probably have some collusion with the Squint Sluggers, Trade Colin to Squints if he's playing.
Yeah, right.
Some other team, and then trade him back the next week.
Oh, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I really like their draft. I would say B+.
Yeah, A- for me. So Brett did a really good job. They're in a good spot. So
8 we're at now, which would be the Flying Hawaiians.
The Hawaiians.
Interesting draft. They took Sam with the 8th overall pick.
Yep.
I thought that was good. And then Shane, they took in the second round. He was still there. I guess it was 4th. Sam was 4th, and Shane was 5th on his draft board. So that was pretty cool. And then he originally drafted Elijah Richardson, but then there was a trade. Now he has Kyle on his team, Kyle Reinhout.
Yep.
So
yep.
Attendance is booming for this team.
Oh, yeah, they're going to show up.
This is like the Ovens last year kind of thing. They'll show up every week.
Yep.
So attendance will never be an issue with them.
Yeah. I made a promise in the chat that I would debunk the whole why owners didn't want Kyle thing.
Well, we can get to that later if we want. Or
it's not going to take that long.
Okay.
Basically, when owners are drafting in this, they're looking for value at the lowest available price. Now, when owners were drafting players and looking for value in the first round, the second round, and the third round, Kyle is a top third round, lower second round talent. But notice that the players drafted with those salaries were all from about in the third round, early third round to lower third round, were around $20 down to Gromala at 9. The majority of those last picks were picked from that area, but those second round picks, you look at a guy like on the list, Jeremy Ross, Neil Kruzwick, Andrew Sitter, Elijah Richardson, Shane Anderson, all those guys
$30.
Clearly around $30. So Kyle, because of his hitting, is better than a third round pick.
It's like a weird anomaly.
Right. But the facts prove it. You look at all the free agents, and the majority of the free agents are where? Around $30 down to 22.
Totally.
So
there's one 22 player and there's one 17. The rest are at 27 or above.
Right.
To 30. So from 27 to 32. So, I mean, I would have probably taken him. I was $1 short. Honestly, if it came down to it, I probably would have taken him.
Same.
Because I need attendance, you
right.
know, because it's kind of a question with work schedules and
right.
Kyle, but
right.
That's just the big issue. Is just like, like you said, there's kind of a weird area in the draft where there's not enough salary
or value. Yeah, and it wasn't that Kyle was bad or anything, but he was too expensive to be a third round pick. But his skill wasn't at the highest enough level to be a high second round pick. So he was caught right in no man's land, and that's why it happened. So Kyle's in a good place though with the Hawaiians. I think that's going to be a team that he really flourishes with. And honestly, you know, if his salary goes up or down even a little bit with the fluctuation, I think he's going to find himself getting drafted earlier on next year because he has good value as a hitter. So, what would you give a grade to the Hawaiians and Warner?
Another B+.
B+.
Yeah.
I'd give him a B. I don't.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm in that kind of range.
I think Shane falling
right there.
down to him was good for him. I think that helps.
Oh,
Sam.
If he didn't get Shane, that draft would have if he would have ended up taking like Jake Van Buren. Not saying anything against Jake, but like that would have been a light hitting team.
Oh, absolutely.
It kind of is already, but with Shane, it gives him a good bat and
absolutely.
And
I think Sam, from the attendance perspective, was a first-round pick, but I mean, Shane to me gives you that.
It could have flip-flopped that, and
right.
It still would have been
exactly.
No one
right.
would have been surprised, but
right.
I don't think. Well, Sam would have probably gone to the Dusters, I think, if it had been.
Right. Sam's value is crazy high just because of his pitching and attendance. So, B for me with the Hawaiians. They're in a good spot. Pitching's going to be a question mark, but I think they'll be middle of the pack as well.
Okay.
So moving into the 10th pick. 9th pick. Ooh,
it's your brother.
Good old Sharif. Young Sheriff. The Bush League Badgers. Now, how this dude gets Wes Ellis to drop to the 9th position is beyond me.
Well,
Anderson, and if I can tell you one thing, if Austin is there, Wes does not go to Jared.
No.
There's no way.
Well, a lot of people, I think, thought Wes was going to go to the Clams, possibly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you
or
could
even
probably
to you.
slip-slop. Yeah, I know. And oh, man. That was, I think I kind of panicked and threw away some of my draft analysis at the point. Because I had about 4 people at that, because I hadn't really scouted a whole lot of other people. So it was just like, I had to quickly think. I'm like, oh, okay, who can I draft? Like, what's the,
right.
And think about everything in that moment of attendance and how are they going to get along, and I don't know. So it's just like, I thought Jeremiah was probably the safest of those.
Right.
He said he was going to be there every week.
Right.
On registration.
Right.
So.
Well, regardless, I mean, Wes fell to the Badgers, and
that's a great pick, yeah.
Jared and Wes is a 1-2 punch. I wouldn't say either are dominant pitchers, but they're top 10. And they're going to be able to throw the ball well. And Jeremy Ross, I mean, the kid is over the top with his enthusiasm, but, I mean, I think that's what Jared needs. Jared's got a guy that's going to buy in. Jeremy's only going to get better. He's going to listen to Jared. And the nice thing that Jared has is he has 2 all-around players. Like, Jared and Wes both can pitch and they both can hit. And now, Eric Van Laren, Jared doesn't have a ton of room for his 4th player.
Well,
that 4th player is going to
That's the issue now. Him and the Dusters at the end of the draft had to take players in they're now negative salary. So he can't play with him, and so if he loses salary from anything, he could be in big trouble.
Right.
Because then he not only has to drop that, but it's like, who are you going to... Because Grimala, I don't know if you're going to drop Grimala, but that would be a...
right.
Or what that status is. But yeah, I mean...
Right. So, I mean, Jared's top 3 are best in the league, if not second in the league behind the Clams, but his 4th option is going to be the question mark. But, I mean, overall, it's a good team. I give Jared an A-. That's a great draft.
Same.
Ross might be... And if he needs to and Ross isn't performing, he could drop down and get a lesser 3rd round player and take a decently better 4th round. So Jared has options as well. So,
all right. So we're gonna try and get these last 2 in real quick.
Yep.
And then we'll get on with it. The Sluggers, run by Eric Detmar. He took Garrett Lytle at the 10th pick, which decent pick, I think.
I agree.
Yeah. And then I won't get into this, but I think that most people would say
controversial pick.
The shock of the night, Zach Wisniewski with the 2nd pick in the 2nd round at $16.41. But then he got, I don't know, and then some collusion happened apparently. So he got who was it that he had? He had who was it? Griffin Smith? Or no?
No. He had Evan.
Oh, no. He had Kyle. He took Kyle.
Yep. He took Kyle.
But then he traded Kyle to the Hawaiians
for Evan Sylvester, I believe.
Yes.
And
I don't know.
Then he traded something happened, and the Dusters got Evan Sylvester.
So the main,
Sluggers got Luke
somehow
Prince. Luke
the
Prince was
Dusters
on the
Dusters had Luke Prince, but now he's on the Sluggers, and now that team looks better than after draft night what it
was before. Yeah, Eric had an interesting draft. I don't really know what the Wisniewski pick was. We'll talk about that a little later. I mean, Luke Prince is okay. I mean, he's iffy on his attendance and what you're going to get out of him. Eric will be middle of the road, I think. Garrett's a good player, but, I mean, nothing stands out on that team really for me. They have a chance to be good. They have a chance to make a run.
There's a rumor that Garrett's like hurt or something.
Is there? Yeah.
I don't know.
There's that playing into it too. I give Eric a B. I mean, he'll be a good team. He could make a splash in free agency with Prince or Wiz if he wants to, but that's where they stand for me. So
I'm gonna say it would have been lower for me. I'm gonna say B-,
okay,
just because he got Prince.
Yeah.
If not, I would have probably said D.
Right.
Because looking at the draft at the first, that was just not, I don't think, something that Eric would have, his team, I thought, needed. Garrett's great because it's a good two-way player.
Right.
And a good value for the price. But,
right.
Yeah, so that would be that. And then round us out with
the
Dusters.
11th pick, Diamond Dusters, Marty. Marty took Alex Friedman with his first-round pick, Luke Prince with his second that he traded for Elijah Richardson, and then ended up with Evan Sylvester for his last pick. Marty had to maneuver out of the negative so that he wouldn't get hit with the penalty by dropping lower in the waiver wire. Alex was a good first-round pick. My boy Al, he got much better at pitching last year. I think he was a good first-round pick. He's going to be someone that stays about where he's at. Could be a little better depending on how he hits and how he pitches, but solid first-round pick, someone that's going to help Marty out a lot. Elijah's going to be working on his stuff, getting a little bit better from pitching. So another middle-of-the-road team for me. Marty's in a good spot. He'll be competitive. He's got some flexibility to make some moves. So I'd say B- for Marty.
Way to get away from the mic there.
B- for Marty.
Anyway, Dusters, Friedman, Elijah Richardson, Evan Sylvester, and Marty. The Mart Man. I love Marty.
Rosala Real Estate Team.
Yes. Hey, they got sponsored shirts. Is it really a sponsorship if it's you and your mom? No. His shirts do look nice, though. I like them. But talking about the draft now. I gotta get on with this.
I know either way it go, Papa gon' be there. Even when the nigga was broke, school was always there. I be pouring out this phone, they thought we wouldn't be here. I told you come a time we have to persevere. I knew it come a time when we are.
And we're back. We're gonna round out the show with a few things. We're doing some underrated, overrated surprise picks, power rankings, and we'll take a couple questions. I mean, most of the questions will kind of been answered by now, but we can always get to that. So we're going to start with underrated players. Caleb and I both picked two players that were underrated. My first one would be Wes. In terms of where he went in the draft, I think, he should have probably been higher. It's probably my own fault, but, hey, and Jeremiah, if you ever listen to this, dude, don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. I'm very excited that you're on the team. I've told him this like 10 times, but, underrated. Also, my number 2 would be Shane, going horrible here. I think that's kind of crazy. They went to the second round. I had no thought of he would be in the second round. He seemed a little upset, so I'm a little afraid of kind of what he'll do this year. I think he'll have a good year. So
yeah. My underrated picks were Jeremy Ross in the second round, where Jared got him. I think Jeremy's going to be a really good player for Jared. I think Jeremy has the mindset and the time and availability to show up a ton. And Sitter, where he was drafted, is a really, really, really good really good pick. So
Great value.
yeah, absolutely. So moving into overrated, I put Kyle Jansen as one of my overrated players.
I'll prove him wrong.
You're gonna prove
Don't
me
worry.
wrong. Hey, and that's not because of his ability. That's just because of how much
I
he could
know.
show. So, it was an iffy pick. It's a big risk. It could pay off. Could prove deadly. And then also Wiz, where he was taken. I mean, Wiz is a good player. Don't get me wrong, and it's no diss against Wiz. That's my guy. But second pick of the second round.
He
is
said
a little,
overrated for Wiz?
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
me too. Sorry, I'm a little distracted looking for these questions. Yeah, no, that's my first one, too. I mean, Wiz, telling you, man, I love all you guys, but that was probably a little high, and I'm sure you would probably agree. I'd hope so. I mean, because I wouldn't have expected to be. It'd be kind of like me being taken in the second round. Would be like, oh, that's interesting, but no. And then I know this is gonna. I couldn't think of like any other good one, and I'm not saying he is overrated by a lot, but it's maybe just a bit too much. Is Al? Don't get me wrong, like I said, I love these guys, but I think just a little too high. I think he should have gone maybe kind of where Shane. I think him and Shane kind of should have swapped. I think that would have been a good way to have handled, or like to make it a little more where they belong. Shane probably could have gone higher, but yeah. And then surprise for me is just Wiz.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was the moment I was just like, whoa. I just sat there and I looked around at everyone. I'm like, is this real?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. When he said that, I was like,
are
wow.
are we doing something else? Like,
Right.
is this like golf? Lowest salary wins. I mean,
Right.
so
Right. My surprise was Lucas going second. He has that ability. He's that good, but Greg's flipping me the bird right now.
no,
He's upset.
not true.
Greg wanted Lucas,
There's
but
just doves flying through the room.
Lucas going at 2 was a surprise for a lot of people. So, those were our underrated, overrated, and surprise picks. We're gonna go into our power rankings.
You want to do questions or power rankings? What do you want to end on?
Let's end on questions.
Okay, so power rankings.
Okay.
And this is where we think they'll be at the end of the regular season, right? Is that how you did it? That's kind of how I did it.
No,
Or
I did
just
it as
from draft.
where we're at right now.
Okay, yeah. So well, yeah, I guess because I mean, long season
Right.
things happen.
Things can
But-
change. Right.
At number 11, this is gonna be a little bit of a surprise. I have the Hawaiians.
Interesting. Okay.
Just because. Well, why don't you go into your 11 and we'll discuss.
Yep. I have the Dusters.
Dusters. I thought about this. That could go either way. I have a lot of faith in Marty. We'll see him later on the list. But yeah, 11 Hawaiians for me. I just don't know if they're going to have enough batting
Okay.
to make up for. I mean, Sam strikes out a lot.
Yeah.
Austin, hopefully, who knows?
Right.
I mean, he's
Right.
kind of a right at average,
Right.
a little above average hitter in terms of hitting everything. But like Shane's going to be that big bopper on their team.
Right.
And Kyle's going to hit a lot of home runs, but can
Mhm.
they get on base enough to make those home runs meaningful?
Yep.
Because if Shane hits 8 solo home runs and they give up 10 runs, what's
Right. Who cares? Right.
who cares? Yeah.
Yeah, and I picked the Dusters not because of, I mean, like I said, there's no real awful team. But Alex is a good number 2, but
Yeah,
even
they're very balanced this year.
Right.
I will say that. Sorry. Go ahead.
right. Alex is good number 2, but with him living so far away, you never know if something could happen and he won't be able to show. And we know Evan isn't going to show up. So between Alex and Elijah being the 2 and 3 and not being able to 100% know that they're going to be there every week or be able to perform, they could have their hands full at first. So, but I mean, if Marty picks up a 4th, they move down in the power rankings very quickly. So, I mean, up in the power rankings. So
Yeah, right. You're looking at it. You think you do.
yeah, right. And I'm going down the other way. So my 10th pick was the Truckers. Who did you have?
10th was the Truckers as
Okay,
well.
so we agree there.
And now it's kind of the opposite of the Hawaiians for me.
Okay.
They have a lot of, or well, wait. Is it the same thing? No, yeah, it is. Different. The Trucker's going to have some good hitting.
Okay.
But the pitching, oh man.
Yeah.
That pitching doesn't look
absolutely
great.
No.
I mean, they
No, it
don't.
doesn't.
Like Jack, like I said, very good player.
Yep.
He has like what, a 4 or 5 ERA, I think,
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
And that's good, but like what's going to happen with the 16 ERA of Tim
Right.
and the 13, 14 of Neil, and then the
Grant.
10, 11 of Grant.
Right.
That's going to be a lot of runs scored. I think they will win some games because I'm sure they'll get some pitching here and there, and but I don't know. That's just going to be a big question mark for me with them.
Right. Me too. I mean, that's the exact same stuff. Number 9, I had the Hawaiians. You had...
Sliding in at number 9 is the Sliders.
Oh, wow. That's controversial.
Yeah. Well, I had to
them
have
are
a
fighting
little-
words.
I know. For me, it's just like I see. If you look at that team, what makes you think that they're? I mean, you said it. Brad and Quinn, not looking so great. I mean, Egg and John, okay, good first couple innings. Like you'll get 2 innings out of John in game 1. You'll get 2 innings out of Moselle in game 2.
Right.
But those other innings, what's going to happen? And
yeah.
Moselle's a pretty good hitter. He had a pretty good season last year. I think a better season than he had my first season 2 years ago. And, but is that going to make up? I mean, Quinn and Brad really need to just get on base and hope John drives them in, I think is how they're going to win games. And, timely hits, timely walks. But I just don't see a whole lot from them. I'm sure they can move up real fast, though, if John meshes well with them and just kind of takes over and wins some games for him. So.
Right. Yeah, I had the Hawaiians at the 9 spot. Just from a pitching perspective, they're going to struggle. And, unless Shane can carry the load offensively, they might struggle there. I mean, Tapper's a good hitter. He'll hit well against slower pitching, but, I mean, there's still big question marks there. So,
and then 8.
Rounding out the death bracket.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I have the Sliders. So, for a lot of the same reasons that you said.
Yeah, controversial.
Right.
Yeah, no. And then the Dusters. So we have the same
death bracket. We honestly didn't look at each other's. We did that on purpose. So.
I made it a point not to look at Caleb's list this time.
Right. So I have, in order for the 8, I have the Dusters, Truckers, Hawaiians, and Sliders.
Dusters, Sliders, Truckers, Hawaiians for me.
Okay, I have the
From
Sliders
8 to
coming
11.
out of the death bracket.
Yeah. If I had to pick one of those, I would say I think it'd be Duster Sliders. I think the top 2 seeds would win there.
Okay.
Because if you're looking at it like that, and I think that'd be a real big toss-up. I think Dusters would pull that out.
Okay.
So.
Yep.
All right, 7 for me is my team.
Okay.
I want to be modest about it. I don't want to be like, oh, yeah, no, Narwhal's going to be number 1. Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, I love my team.
Pull a sheriff.
Yeah, right. Who's going to win? The Badgers.
The Badgers.
Who's going to be number 1? The Badgers.
Right.
Who's going to go undefeated? The Badgers.
Right.
Everyone, of course. Thanks for good insight there, Sheriff.
Yeah. Good old Sharif.
But I think it just depends on how everything works out for me. There's a lot of question marks, so I can see how that could not, be kind of a thing that doesn't work out for me. Is like, what's Kyle's schedule going to be like? If Corinne's like, oh, I need him home one day. Yeah,
Right.
It just might come down to that. And I understand. That's why I knew what I was getting into when I drafted him. So,
Right.
Yeah, 8.
Yep.
Or 7.
7. I have the Sluggers. They would be higher on my list, but Luke Prince is a big question mark to me. And Eric's a great pitcher, but from a hitting perspective, they don't have a ton of firepower there either. So that's why they're 7th for me.
I think if Prince and we'll get to that, but when I mention them, 6, I have your team.
Okay.
I mean, I think you'll do enough to win games. I like James, so that's pretty much it for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have you guys at 6. So
Okay.
we both picked each other at 6. There we go. If Kyle shows up,
No
you'll be
collusion.
higher. If Kyle doesn't show up as much as he should, you'll be lower. If he shows up 6 games, that's where I think you guys will finish.
Cool.
So
5 for me is the Sluggers.
Okay.
They kind of just fell into that thing for me. They kind of fell into that spot. They could have been down lower, but I think I have a little more faith, I think, in Garrett and Luke Prince with the hitting wise.
Okay.
And I think Eric showed himself to be a better hitter last year.
Okay.
Than in previous years. And
Yeah.
he had a great lockdown year for pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, he was right next to you in a lot of the pitching categories.
Yep.
So I think he will be in that top part.
Yep.
4.
For 5 in your 5 spot.
That was my 5. What
Okay.
or did you do your 5?
No, I have the Bombers.
Bombers. Okay.
Brett, Colin, and Jake will be enough to be there. They'll keep games low scoring, but if they give up runs, it'll be tough to get back into it. So
Number 4, Bombers for me.
you have the Bombers?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're pretty close there.
Yeah, I think just Brett has shown me from playing these last 2 years, it doesn't really matter. I mean, he didn't show up for 3 weeks, and their team was still middle of the road, but they were the 4th seed
Right.
out of how many, 7, 8 teams last year.
Mhm.
So I mean, kind of the same thought, but I think I have a little more faith in him to be in the top part, especially if Colin shows up and did what he did during the playoffs.
Right. Yep. My number 4 team is the Liners.
Oh, of course.
No,
I could see why you would say that, but
we're playing with 3 for the first half of the season. So between James and Justin, if they can keep runs to a minimum, and if I can hit the way I've hit the past few years, I think we could be in a good position to be in the top half. So,
all right, and then
you're number 3.
so we will have the same top 3 teams. We'll see if what order they're in.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll do number 3 for me first is the Sultans of Soy.
Okay.
Lucas, very good with Robbie. I think those 2 alone can win a lot of games. And then if John shows up, sure, at least half the games, I think that's still enough talent to bring them over the hump to a top 5 and now top 3 performance. So
I had the Sultans, exact same
oh
reasons.
boy.
Yep. 2-1. We're eerily close. This is kind of crazy. All right.
I think a lot of our opinions are the same though on
It's true.
the talents and evaluation of a lot of these players.
Absolutely.
Go ahead with your 2 first.
The Badgers.
The Badgers are also my number
Number
2.
2. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jared West and Jeremy is a dominant group.
Yes, very good. It just comes into question with the salary hits and stuff, and
Right.
the fact that he has zeros, he's negative right now.
Right.
I don't know how that
I mean,
whole
it doesn't.
thing's
It
gonna
doesn't.
work out.
It doesn't penalize him. He just has to take the first available player that will put him underneath the salary cap.
Well, yeah,
So-
but then what if that player wants to keep showing up every week?
Right.
You
that
know,
could hurt him. Right.
But yeah, that's the only reason I put him 2
Okay.
because then number 1 is obviously
The
the
Clams.
Clams.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt, great. If his arm doesn't fall off, that's the
Yeah.
main thing.
Right.
I really hope he's healthier this season because he's really hard to hit. I'm not looking forward to having to face him again.
Yeah.
He's my least favorite. I can handle you, I can handle Brett, but man, I cannot handle Matt.
Really?
For some reason, it just
Interesting.
messes with me.
Me and Brett probably
And
throw
I can-
10, 15 miles an hour faster than Matt.
Yeah. But the way he throws it,
He does
the
His slider. Yeah, he has a great pitch.
Yeah, that's the one that gets me. So I mean, he
Right.
could be, him, and then Austin Gibson, Sitter.
That's a deadly
These are
1, 2,
we're
3.
talking top 5 players going in the late second round. You
Yep.
know, that team, and then Ashby. Who knows how long that's gonna last? But
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to lose them enough games to
No.
fall out
No.
far from that spot. But
Absolutely not.
so, yeah. And then that rounds out power rankings and everything draft-wise. So we're going to go to the question. Oh, man, there's always lots of questions. Sheriff always asks, about, who's going to win the championship. So
We answered it.
biggest surprise, we did that. How will the Truckers fare after last year's season?
Well, I don't think they could get worse. I'll put it that way.
I hope not. Because worse is like one game win. They don't want to be the Browns.
Oh boy.
Who will win it all? I don't. It's such
Too early to tell.
It's a pipe shoot. Because if you would have asked me last year, I would have said, it would have been a Liners Ovens. That's what I said. Liners Ovens.
Yep.
Championship, and by far it did not do that. So, will the Badgers lose in the championship again?
They could.
They could. That would suck if he did that again. Would that be the third time he's been in the championship and lost?
Jared?
Yeah. Because I thought he did it before, didn't he?
He won in 2014.
Oh, he won. Okay, I didn't know he
made
even
it
won.
2017.
Okay, so
and then
just
I was
twice.
back
So
to
he's
back
one
in
of
15
two.
and 16. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see here.
Is there anything on Twitter?
You check the Twitter.
I will.
Let's see. We answered, why don't the owners want Kyle Ryan out on their team?
He was just in between.
Who will be in the death bracket? We answered that. Oh, he asked this twice. Oh. Grade each first round pick.
We did that, didn't we? Or did we grade the overall draft?
Each first round pick, where would you say who is number one?
We don't got time for that.
Yeah, no. Best batting team.
Ooh. Best batting team. The Badgers.
I will say. I'm going to say the Truckers have the best batting. But the deficit of pitching, because then it's best pitching team. Yeah.
The Clams.
The problem is that's the Truckers' big issue.
Right.
They can drive in 10 runs, but if they give up 30, it doesn't matter. Best overall team. We answered that. We both said the Clams. Tim says, why does Jared always ask questions about winning it all in January?
Because Jared's got money moves on the brain. He wants to make money moves. Just
like John Monco, right?
He's real. He's going to be a liner this year.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Oh my gosh. I'm not seeing anything else.
I don't either. And this has been a long episode.
No, not that long.
Really?
No. It's about a little over an hour.
Well, this is going to be good for the viewers, I think.
Yes.
2018 was brought in with typical Leroy fashion. A lot of laughs, a lot of controversy.
A lot of tea sipping.
But I think, and I mean we can both say this confidently, next year is going to be a very, very good year competitively from a team's perspective. So, yeah. So I'm good.
Yeah.
Get ready for this tournament. Ask us about it. It's going to be legit. So
you will see a show from us in February, once a month, hopefully. Hopefully going to look into getting some guests maybe for those spots, working on logistics of being able to have people phone call. No one wants to come out to Crete. Apparently it's a horrible town. I don't know. So, but
it's a shame.
Anyway, for my co-host, Caleb, this has been Going Corn.
See ya.
See ya.